The alien collapsed just 20 steps after descending from the Urathi envoy craft. The landing pad was silent for a moment. Stunned officials, soldiers, scientists, and envoys unsure what to do as a 9-foot-tall alien female crumpled, her luminescent veins flickering and dimming with each panicked breath. Her long, ridged limbs twitched violently, and bioluminescent fluid leaked from her lower abdomen, pooling into a bluish stain on the steel floor. Is she under attack? Was this a trap? Get her to medical. Tvani Velour, representative of the Urathi Dominion, did not hear them. Her vision narrowed to a tunnel of light and disjointed sound. Her pride told her to rise. Her body didn't listen. She'd made it to Earth. But something inside her had broken. Ren Halden had no idea what he was walking into when the medical alert reached his department. The words critical alien envoy, reproductive crisis were so bizarre, he thought it was a prank. I'm a gynecologist, he told the military woman who intercepted him in the hallway. She didn't blink. Exactly. That's why you're going in. The woman thrust a tablet into his hands. She's bleeding from an internal cavity. We don't know what organ. She's got some kind of pheromone signature interfering with our equipment. Male doctors kept passing out. You're apparently immune. You're also the highest clearance we have on site. He frowned at the tablet, barely skimming the biological data. Wait, pheromone-based biology? And I'm supposed to examine her in person? You've handled sensitive exams on hybrid patients before. You're gentle, careful, and you're not one of the morons who tried to selfie with the Threx ambassador. Okay, that one time wasn't my fault. No time. She's going into shock. The isolation chamber reeked of ozone and antiseptic, and the lighting was low, likely for her comfort. Ren stepped in through the triple-sealed doorway, gloved, masked, scrubbed, and carrying a medical scanner that was already shorting out. And then he saw her. Her skin shimmered in iridescent tones, lavender under one light, silver blue under another. Her limbs were longer than his arms, her fingers tipped with black claws. She had no visible hair, just a crown of horned ridges sweeping back over her skull. Her breathing was shallow, uneven. Her lower body, draped in a minimal diplomatic wrap, was soaked in the same glowing fluid. One of her 4 eyes opened, then another. Who are you? She rasped, voice like velvet over metal. He swallowed. Dr. Ren Halden. I'm here to. You are not a command-tier male, she said sharply. You wear no insignia of mating bond, no scent markers. What gives you authority to see Urathi flesh? Medical emergency, he said, forcing calm. You're in critical condition. Internal bleeding. I've been asked to perform an examination to save your life. Tvani narrowed her eyes. Her scent shifted in the air, unfamiliar but distinct. An examination? You wish to touch my lower threshold without even presenting a challenge, right? Without declaring your clan? Are all human males so bold? He blinked. I'm a gynecologist. I specialize in reproductive health. This isn't about mating. It's about keeping you alive. Her claws curled. You want me to open my legs for you, human? The sentence struck him like a slap. He almost dropped the scanner. Not like that, he said quickly. Not for pleasure. For medicine. She bared her teeth. He didn't know if it was aggression or confusion. Your kind confuses me. Join the club, he muttered. Another spasm hit her. She grunted, body writhing in pain. Her abdomen pulsed with light, like something inside was trying to push out. Ren saw it. He'd worked with post-genetic hybrid patients before, but this was entirely new. You're hemorrhaging, he said gently. Please, let me help. Tvani let out a low growl, but slowly leaned back against the inclined medbed. Her breathing became more controlled, like a soldier preparing for interrogation. I grant you limited access, she said. If you breach the sacred chamber, I will remove your arm. Fair, he said quickly, stepping closer. The examination began awkwardly. The interface scanner couldn't penetrate her shielding, so he relied on manual tools. Her anatomy was semi-humanoid but with key differences: double-banded pelvic structure, internal chambers that pulsed with heat, and a faint vibration through her core that made him think of some kind of biological relay. As he carefully examined her, she never broke eye contact. "Do human females submit to this willingly?" she asked. "Yes," he said, trying not to blush. "They come to us to ensure their health, to prevent disease, to maintain fertility. It's about trust." "You are strange," she muttered. "You treat the most sacred place of life as something to diagnose." "Well," he said, scanning a pulsing organ near her lower abdomen, "we don't call it sacred, just important." He froze. Something glinted on his scanner, a foreign signature, embedded deep within her internal cavity. It pulsed independently of her heartbeat. It wasn't organic. "Tvani," he said carefully, "have you had any recent procedures? Implants? Exposure to off-world tech?" Her voice turned sharp. "No." "Why?" "You've got something inside you, something that shouldn't be there. It's not part of your anatomy," she hissed, sitting upright. "What do you mean? What is it?" "I can't say for sure, but it looks like a bio-beacon, like a transmitter embedded near what I assume is your reproductive command node. It's not active yet, but it's reacting to your hormonal shifts." She looked genuinely shaken. I have never allowed foreign technology near that chamber. My people, our genetics are sovereign. Sacred. "You didn't consent to this?" he asked. She stared at him, expression unreadable. "Consent is not given lightly." Ren nodded. "Then someone put it there without your knowledge." A long silence followed. Her breathing was uneven again, not from pain, but from something deeper. Violation. Fear. "You said it's reacting to hormonal shifts?" she asked softly. He hesitated. "Yes, most likely related to your heat cycles. Maybe proximity to male presence. Could be partially triggered by me." Her head snapped toward him. "So you're saying you are activating this parasite?" "Not intentionally," he said quickly. "I'm just biologically compatible in some weird way. Maybe because I'm not Urathi." She stared at him for a long time. Then she leaned back slowly. "Get it out of me," she whispered. "I'll try," he said. "But it's deep. If I remove it the wrong way, I could damage your core systems. I need time. Scans. Tests." She nodded stiffly, gaze distant. "Then I will wait." Over the next 3 days, Ren remained assigned to her exclusively. No other doctors could approach, either because of her pheromonal interference or her refusal to speak to anyone but him. She didn't trust him, not entirely, but he was the only one who hadn't treated her like a specimen. He brought her food, specially engineered meals from Urathi dietary data. She ignored most of them, instead breaking open a protein cube that smelled like burnt sulfur and chewing it while glaring at him. "Why do you care if I die?" she asked once. He looked up from his notes. "Because I'm your doctor." "That's not an answer," she said. "You don't know me. You gain nothing." "So why?" He shrugged. "Because no one else volunteered. Because you're scared. Because maybe, deep down, I want you to live." She considered this. "Strange. You say that a lot." "Because humans are strange." She asked questions about human reproduction, relationships, love. She didn't understand why females on Earth chose partners who weren't warriors. "They don't even challenge you? No battle right? No strength display?" "Some do," he chuckled. "But usually it's about trust. Connection." "Connection," she echoed. "Without combat?" "Without combat." She shook her head slowly, then glanced at him with something unreadable in her gaze. "Do your females ever choose males who heal instead of fight?" "All the time." On the 5th day, the beacon inside her flared. Alarms blared. Tvani screamed. Ren was the first to reach her. Her body writhed, and for a terrifying moment, her eyes turned pitch black. Her limbs jerked, and she clutched at her abdomen. "It's activating," she gasped. "It's trying to override me." Ren scanned her as fast as he could. The beacon had begun transmitting pulses, attempting to hijack her autonomic system. "It's rewriting your chemistry," he said. trying to force you into reproductive compliance. She spat. I am not a vessel. He met her gaze. I can stop it, but I'll need to perform a deep procedure. She trembled. Then do it. I need you to say it clearly. I need you to choose this. She stared at him. Then, quietly, I give you access, Ren Halden. Not as a male, as my healer. He nodded. The procedure was delicate. He had to navigate living tissue that pulsed and shifted like coral reefs, moving in defensive patterns. He used microtools, fine manipulators, and the scanner tethered to a deep layer interface. Tvani never made a sound, though her claws pierced the side of the bed. At last, he pulled the beacon free, a small, writhing shard of metal laced with blinking lights. She looked at it. Then she looked at him. You touched my soul chamber, she said softly. He met her gaze. Only to heal it. She was silent for a long moment. Then, you may continue touching it. He almost dropped the beacon. Ren didn't sleep the night after the procedure. He sat outside the isolation chamber, holding the now inactive biobeacon inside a sterile vial. The thing pulsed faintly with residual energy, as if angry to have been evicted from its host. No one could identify the technology, not human, not Urathi, nor any known interstellar faction. And that terrified him more than he wanted to admit. Inside, Tvani was resting. Her limbs curled loosely around herself like a sleeping serpent. The chamber's ambient light bathed her in soft hues, reflecting off her opalescent skin. Even unconscious, her presence was magnetic, her body too graceful, too powerful to ignore. She was unlike anyone, anything he had ever met, and she'd let him in, not just into her body, but her trust. He knew what that meant to the Urathi. When she woke, her movements were slow but steady. She blinked her 4 eyes, one after the other, until they all aligned on him sitting in the chair, head slumped forward, half asleep. You stayed. Her voice was quieter than usual, less biting. Ren looked up, rubbing his face. Of course, you went through something traumatic. I wasn't going to leave you alone after that. She tilted her head, regarding him. You watched over me, without guards, without restraint. Well, you did say you'd tear my arm off if I crossed a line. That was convincing enough. A sound escaped her, something close to a laugh, but deeper, resonating in her chest like a purr. You humans are too soft, but I don't dislike it. He stood and approached, checking her vitals. She allowed it without protest. Her body temperature had stabilized, the artificial swelling in her glandular system was subsiding, and her reproductive node was no longer under external influence. You're recovering well, he said, adjusting the settings on her nutrient flow. No signs of further interference. Whatever that thing was, it didn't leave a backup. Tvani's gaze drifted to the vial on the tray. It was planted in me during cryotransit. I remember now just flashes, shadows in my chamber, hands I didn't recognize. Assassins. No. Worse, she said. Politicians. Ren frowned. Your own people? She didn't answer, but her silence was all the confirmation he needed. He stepped back, giving her space. Why would they want to control you like that? Tvani leaned her head back against the padded wall, her expression unreadable. Because I refused to bond with the suitors they offered. Because I said no to becoming a brood chamber for alliances. Because I said I would only bond when I chose, and not before. Her fingers flexed, claws scraping the edge of her bed. They fear a female with autonomy more than any outside enemy. Ren sat back down, quiet for a long moment. I can't imagine what that's like, he said. But I've seen women, human women, go through similar things. Not as extreme, but the pressure, the control, the expectations. It's not unique to your world. She turned her eyes toward him, surprised. You speak with sympathy. Most males would use this moment to position themselves. He chuckled softly. I think you'd disembowel anyone who tried. Correct, she said flatly. They sat together in silence again. But this time it felt different, companionable. Her body was still recovering, but the tension had eased. She wasn't just tolerating him anymore. She was watching him with something closer to curiosity. "You've seen my most private chamber," she said suddenly. He blinked. "That's one way to put it. You've touched a place no Urathi male has been permitted. And yet you claim no dominance, no conquest. I don't understand you." "I'm not trying to dominate you," he said. "I'm trying to protect you." Her eyes narrowed slightly. "Why?" "Because I think you deserve better." She looked away quickly, jaw tense. "You think me weak?" "No," he said. "I think you're stronger than anyone gives you credit for. I also think strong people deserve to rest sometimes, too." That made her pause. No one had ever told her that before. Later that evening, she requested a walk, against medical advice. She refused attendance. Only Ren was permitted to escort her, and even then, she barely tolerated the offer. The base had cleared the wing for her privacy. She walked barefoot, her stride still commanding despite the healing process. Ren matched her pace, not commenting on her posture or the way her body still trembled with strain. "I used to believe humans were fragile," she said, looking out a long window overlooking Earth's forests. "Your world is soft, your people small, your weapons primitive." He smirked. "You're really selling us here. And yet," she continued, ignoring him, "you do not bow. You do not retreat from things you do not understand. You approach monsters with open hands. That takes a different kind of strength." She stopped walking, turned to face him. "Would you have treated me if I had been male?" "Of course." "Would you have stayed all night?" "If he needed me, yes." Tvani searched his face. "Then you are not like the others." Ren gave a soft shrug. "Neither are you." She stepped closer, and for the first time, he felt the intensity of her presence up close without fear. She wasn't looming or posturing. She was simply there, wild and beautiful and terrifying all at once. "You're females," she asked. "Would they hate me for this? For being near you?" He blinked, startled. "Why would they?" No, Tvani, nobody owns anyone. Not here. If we choose to spend time together, it's no one else's business." Her eyes softened, the vertical pupils dilating faintly. "Even if it leads to intimacy?" He tried not to react too strongly to the word. "Even then." She studied him for a long time, then gave a small, approving hum. "I have never mated without battle. Never without testing my partner's resolve with blade or claw." "Well," Ren said nervously, "I'm really more of a talk things through kind of guy." Her lips curled. "I have noticed." She stepped past him, her shoulder brushing his. "Then perhaps I'll learn your way." Back in her chamber, she asked him to stay. He didn't sleep in her bed. She didn't offer. But she laid down within arm's reach, her back to him, her tail occasionally flicking toward his chair. Hours passed. She shifted, restless, muttering in Urathi dialects. He leaned forward. "Tvani." "I'm warm," she muttered. "Not fever. Something else." Ren checked the monitors. Her hormone levels were spiking again, unnaturally fast. "No," he said softly. "They left more than one trigger." She winced. "Something waking inside me." Before his eyes, the skin at the base of her spine began to pulse. Something mechanical emerged, a thin needle-like extension, previously dormant, now glowing with malevolent light. "Oh hell," Ren breathed. "They embedded a second control device. It's in your nervous column." She screamed, not from pain but fury. "Get it out," she roared. "I'll need help." "No time." Her hands grabbed his wrist, claws brushing his skin without breaking it. "You get it out," she said through clenched teeth. "I trust you." He hesitated for just a second, then activated the emergency surgical toolkit. She fell onto her side, exposing the flare at her spine. The device was small, metallic, trying to bury itself deeper. Ren used every ounce of precision he had, isolating the nerves, extracting the foreign object millimeter by millimeter. The room was filled with the sound of her growling, her breath ragged, but she didn't flinch. Finally, the device came free. He dropped it into a containment case. Silence. Then, slowly, her body relaxed. He reached out, brushing her shoulder lightly. Tvani? She rolled onto her back, panting, eyes wide. You removed it, she whispered. You touched my spine, my core. I did what I had to do. No male has ever dared. He nodded. I guess I keep breaking your records. She sat up suddenly and grabbed his shirt. He froze. You have my scent now, she said, eyes glowing. You have touched both chambers. And still you remain. Why? He met her gaze. Because I care about you. Not your politics. Not your title. You. Her breath caught. In her world, that kind of honesty was rare. Dangerous. She leaned in, her forehead brushing his. I don't know what to do with you, she murmured. He smiled gently. Then let's figure it out together. She closed her eyes. And for the first time in years, Tvani Velour, the fearsome envoy of the Urathi Dominion, slept peacefully in someone else's presence. Tvani was awake before the sunrise, sitting cross-legged on the bed with a blanket wrapped over her shoulders. She watched the light creeping in from the reinforced glass, silent and still, except for the subtle shifting of the muscles beneath her skin. Her claws were withdrawn. Her breathing was calm. Ren stirred in the corner chair, blinking groggily. He sat up straighter when he saw her awake. You didn't wake me, he said, rubbing his neck. You needed rest, she replied simply. Humans don't heal through stress. That much I've learned. He gave a tired smile and stood, walking over. How are you feeling? Different. She didn't elaborate and he didn't press. He took a scanner and gently moved it across her back, careful not to make contact unless necessary. She allowed him, but she kept watching him, intently. No sign of foreign implants, he reported. Your system's returning to normal. If anything, your bio-readings are more stable now than they've ever been since you arrived. Tvani nodded. Then my body is mine again. He glanced at her, then hesitated. What happens now? She turned her eyes to the window. The Urathi Council will demand a report. They will ask if I am fit for duty, if I am compliant. And if you're not? Her smile was thin. They may try to recall me, or remove me. Do you want to go back? Tvani looked at him. Do you want me to? I want you to be safe, and I want you to be free to choose. Her throat moved as she swallowed hard. Then, surprising him, she reached out, slowly, almost nervously, and touched the side of his face. Her fingers were warm and precise, as though she were memorizing his skin. I have chosen few things in my life, she murmured. Even fewer of those things have chosen me in return. Ren felt a strange tightness in his chest, like the air had grown too thick. You're not alone, Tvani. Not anymore. She let her hand fall, gaze lingering on his lips just long enough to stir something deeper between them. A chime interrupted the moment, an incoming message from command. Ren turned to the terminal, frowning. It's from Earth Council. They're requesting a joint hearing. Apparently, your case has drawn attention. Tvani's expression changed instantly, tight, unreadable. They mean to use me as a political weapon. Their precious diplomatic gem turned compromised asset. They'll want proof I'm not a threat. Well, Ren said, folding his arms. We've got the extracted devices, video logs, medical scans. None of that matters, she said bitterly. Not if they see only a female Urathi compromised by human touch. They will not believe I wasn't altered by you. He met her gaze. Were you? She stepped closer, the air between them crackling. Not by force. That lingered between them, sparking with implication. Then she straightened and turned away, her body once again a fortress of control. Then we'll tell them the truth, Ren said. That your will was your own. That we stopped the manipulation. That you're still the same person. I am not, she said quietly. And I do not think I wish to be. The hearing was held virtually, with both Earth and Urathi leaders projecting into the chamber. Tvani stood at full height beside Ren, clad in ceremonial armor rather than medical garb. She looked radiant and utterly unbowed. The first voice to speak was General Moreau, representing Earth. Envoy Tvani, you were found to be carrying unknown technology interfacing with your reproductive systems. Are you aware of how this was installed? I was not, she said. It was done during cryotransport, most likely under the guise of medical scanning, without my consent. Then do you admit your systems were compromised? Asked an Urathi elder, Counselor Brevath. His translucent crests glimmered with displeasure. I admit I was used, she said, eyes hard, but not compromised. My mind was never theirs to own, and it was a human who risked his life to return me to myself. The chamber murmured. Dr. Wren, another Earth delegate said, you removed the implants yourself? Yes, sir, Wren said, stepping forward. There was no time to wait. The device was designed to evolve. If we hadn't acted when we did, it would have fused with her neural systems permanently. Counselor Brevath sneered. And how convenient that you were the one with such intimate access to her systems. Tvani stepped in, voice cold as frost. He had my trust. That is more than I can say for the council who sent me into enemy territory carrying your hidden chains. The silence that followed was heavy. You overstep, Brevath began. No, interrupted another voice. Elder Shireen, one of the few female Urathi counselors. Her tone was measured. She speaks as one who has broken no oath, only bonds that were placed upon her. Our envoy is intact, her will unshaken. This incident only proves the strength of her person. Even from Earth's side, nods of approval followed. Whatever doubts remained, they were dwindling in the face of her clarity. By the end of the hearing, she had not only secured her position as envoy, but gained a renewed level of autonomy, something rare and hard-earned. When the feed ended, Wren turned to her. You were incredible. She exhaled slowly, relaxing only when the last light of the projection faded. I expected exile. Instead, they listened, because I had a human standing beside me. She smiled faintly, and because I did not flinch. Later that night, back in the privacy of her quarters, the tension had finally drained. She sat with her knees drawn up, sipping a bitter root brew that reminded her of home. You're not going back, are you? Wren asked quietly. She shook her head. Earth is unpredictable, but it is real. Every moment here, I feel like I am discovering myself again. He sat beside her on the floor. You could stay here permanently. The embassy would accept you. I don't want to live in the embassy. He raised a brow. Then where? She hesitated. Then, with you. He stared, stunned for a second. Tvani, you have touched the innermost parts of me, she said, not even blushing. You removed the chains placed in my body. You showed me care without conquest. Why should I return to empty halls when I have found something whole? I never thought I'd hear you say that. I never thought I'd feel it. Then, softly, does your culture require formal rituals for partnership? Wren blinked. We have a few, yeah, but mostly it comes down to mutual choice. Love. Love, she repeated, tasting the word. Yeah, companionship, devotion. It's not about ownership. It's about showing up, again and again. I think, she said, voice low and rich, I could learn to love like that. He reached out, brushing her cheek gently. She leaned into the touch, and when their lips finally met, it was not a collision. It was surrender, an invitation, an understanding wrapped into a breathless, slow-burning kiss. It wasn't urgent. It wasn't a power play. It was honest. When they parted, her voice was a whisper. So this is how humans open doors to the soul. Wren grinned. Better than a gynecological inspection? She gave a low, rumbling laugh and curled her arms around him, pulling him close. Much. And for the first time since arriving on Earth, Tvani felt at home. The days that followed were quiet, but not in the way of silence. Rather, they pulsed with a kind of stillness full of meaning. The kind of peace that came not from absence of conflict, but from its resolution. Tvani no longer kept her claws half drawn. no longer scanned the room when she entered, and no longer recoiled from touch. She walked beside Ren through the gardens outside the Earth-Urathi Research Complex, the warm wind catching the edge of her robe, letting it flutter like wings. Humans passed and nodded in greeting. Some smiled. She returned the gestures, stiffly at first, but with growing ease. The world no longer felt foreign, just new. "Do you know what I was taught about your kind?" she asked, pausing by a tree whose bark gave off a scent not unlike home. "That you were primitive, obsessive, too ruled by instincts." Ren stood beside her, hands in his pockets. "And I have learned," she looked at him, "that instincts are not the enemy of intelligence. That feeling is not the opposite of strength. Your people care deeply, sometimes foolishly, but you care." He smiled. "We've got a lot of flaws, and I have seen most of them." Her smile tugged upward. "But it is your capacity for hope that still disarms me." They continued walking. He could feel something shifting in her. Less like armor softening, more like armor choosing when not to be worn. "So," he said after a pause, "have you thought more about the future?" "I have." She glanced at him, her expression unreadable but not cold. "And I have a request." "Anything. I wish to stay here." She stopped walking, facing him fully. "Not just on Earth. With you. Not as your patient. Not even as an envoy." Ren blinked. "Then as what?" "As your partner." He barely breathed. "I do not wish to live behind embassy walls or under council command. I want to build something outside of hierarchy. Something with you." Ren's throat tightened. "You want to live with me?" She stepped forward, took his hand. "I want to belong, and I choose to belong with you." It wasn't a proposal in the human sense. There was no ring, no kneeling, no crowd to cheer. But for Tvani, it was the most sacred kind of vow, one that transcended her bloodline, her training, her species. And for Ren, it was everything he hadn't dared ask for. He pulled her into a hug, arms wrapping around her frame. She tensed for just a moment, old reflexes dying hard, but then she melted against him, pressing her brow to his shoulder. She didn't flinch when he kissed her temple. The next weeks moved like gentle tides. Tvani moved into Ren's home, at first only with a single case of possessions, then more as the days passed. She brought strange spices and sharper cutlery, spoke her thoughts aloud in Urathi when she forgot to translate, and sometimes corrected the thermostat because humidity is life, not a nuisance. Ren taught her how to cook Earth meals. She didn't understand pancakes, but she made a mean scrambled egg. They shopped together, argued over bath towels. Why do humans need fluff? And spent long evenings on the couch, watching old documentaries and laughing over outdated fears of alien invasions. One night, as a meteor shower passed overhead, they sat wrapped in a blanket on the back deck. Tvani tilted her head toward the sky. "That one," she pointed, "we called Merex's comb. The stories said a goddess lost it after chasing a mortal across the stars. Did she catch him? No. But he waited, anyway. Built a tower of fire to guide her back." He leaned into her. "That sounds familiar. You humans think you're the center of the universe," she said wryly. "No, we just try to make our small part of it better." She hummed in response, resting her head against him. Her skin was cool in the night air, but his warmth filled the space between them. After a moment, she whispered, "Ren, yeah, I do not know how to say this in your language without it sounding clumsy. Try me." She looked at him, her voice gentle. "I cherish you, not for your knowledge, not for your touch, but for your steadiness. You are a constant presence in a life that has been all storms." His heart swelled. "You're not clumsy. You're perfect." "I'm learning," she said. "Your kind calls this love." "Yes, yes." She turned her hand palm up between them, a Urathi symbol of openness. "Then I love you." It hit him like a pulse of gravity. Not dramatic, not sudden, just inevitable. "I love you too, Tvani." She smiled. They fell asleep beneath the stars that night, wrapped in warmth and silence and breath. No war, no council, no implanted horrors. Just two beings who had chosen each other. In time, their story would spread. Humans and Urathi alike would point to them as a symbol of cooperation, of healing, of love beyond boundaries. Some would scoff, some would praise, but neither of them cared for either. They had found each other in the ruins of expectation, and made something whole from the broken parts. And for Tvani, who had once recoiled at the idea of human touch, the irony was not lost. That the man who first startled her with words like, "You'll be safe here," had become the one she reached for in the dark without hesitation. He had opened her legs for healing, but more importantly, he had opened her heart for everything else. And that, to her, was the real beginning.